and all the love in the world. It's 16 minutes past 10. Jonathan Cowap with you on a Tuesday morning. Now, if the weather was nice at the weekend, you might have taken advantage and got out and about on the dales or the moors for a walk, and having completed 6 or 7 miles, you may well have sat back afterwards and enjoyed the scenery, feeling rather content and proud of yourself. You might even have had a hot foot soak when you got home, or a refreshing drink. How pleased with yourself would you feel, though, if you had just walked over 1,000 miles? Over 1,000 miles? It's a ridiculous question. Who would do such a thing? Well, actually, the man sitting opposite me this morning, Mike Brockhurst, has just finished an 80-day walk that saw him walk from Faraid Head, a dramatic peninsula and one of the most northerly points in the west of Scotland, to Lizard Point, the most southerly place in the British mainland. Good morning, welcome to the studio.
Good morning, Jonathan.
So when did you finish?
I finished last Tuesday, a week ago today. If this time last week, I was actually at a place called Mullion, where I met my wife and a few friends who were going to walk the final stage from me, and I walked along the southwest coast path from Mullion to Lizard Point on a beautiful blue sky day where the sea was really blue azure. It was a fantastic day and a great ending. Somewhat
unlike the weather in North Yorkshire today.
Well, somewhat, yes, but the weather in North Yorkshire is typical of England, and that's what makes it so beautiful, because the weather, if it doesn't rain, you don't have a green and pleasant land.
No.
And Britain's a great and green, pleasant land, isn't it?
How are your feet?
Recovering, but still quite painful. I mean, walking for 80 days non-stop, it was a really, really difficult challenge. I have walked long distance paths before, and I've always had to use blister plasters and take precautionary steps and everything else. But this time, 80 days on the trot, impact on the feet, with a 16-kilo backpack on as well. You've got to consider that you're carrying another couple of stone on your back all the time.
How far do you walk in a day?
I average 50 mile a day. Some days were 9-10 miles, where I wanted to visit somewhere in particular. Bath, for example. I'd never been to the city of Bath, so I made that short day so I could explore the city. But some days were 25 miles. Those 25-mile days were very long days. Start at 8 o'clock in the morning, finish at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. Sometimes later, when I was really struggling, particularly in Scotland, where some of the tracks weren't tracks at all, and I had to negotiate my own way through land.
Do you walk solely on tracks, or are there actually sections of this where you have to walk on public roads?
Well, some of it is public road. I try to avoid public road as much as possible by picking the route I did. Traditionally, people, there is a challenge called Land's End to John O'Groats. Lots of people do. But a lot of it is road. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to pick my own route that would take in... And John O'Groats is on the north-east of Scotland, so you would have missed the great, spectacular Northwest Islands. Beautiful mountains in Ross and Cromarty and Sutherland. I wanted to do that. So I avoided roads as much as possible, but it's impossible to avoid them completely.
What sort of planning do you have to do? Because, I mean, this kind of project fascinates me. In this pack, is there a tent? Is that where you're going to sleep?
Yes,
or are you walking from pub to B&B to pub to B&B type thing?
In Northwest Scotland, I had no choice.
No.
There are no pubs and B&Bs in certain places I was walking to, so I had to use the tent. In the 80 days, I used the tent 12 times. Most of the time was in Scotland, sometimes in England, because I was with a colleague called Strolling Steve, my buddy, and we actually chose to camp sometimes by rivers, by streams, and really enjoy the evenings, some beautiful evenings. So that's when you camp. We were due to camp in Hebden Bridge, but we had the most horrendous thunderstorm, and it would have even the tents would have been washed away and everything else. So the plan to camp was quickly aborted, and we found accommodation at Hebden Bridge. But yes, I carry a tent, I carry a sleeping bag, I carry a mattress and a blow-up air mattress. I've got all my provisions. In Scotland, I had to carry supplies for 3 or 4 days as well, because I couldn't find shops. There were no shops on stages, and sometimes it felt very heavy, particularly it was raining as well, and you've got all your wet gear on, and the rain's pouring down.
Is this the last great adventure that you can have in a very built-up island? We're very technologically connected. Even places that, we think of as being remote. Someone can arrive in a helicopter, and you can make a mobile phone call a lot of the times if you get into trouble. But this must be the last great UK adventure.
I think people can make adventures of their own, Jonathan. I really do. I mean, York, for example. York, people don't identify York with walking, but you've got 3 great trails around this city. You've got the Jorvik Trail, you've got the Ypres Trail, and you've got the Minster Way. How many people walk them and make a plan of walking it all and doing it logistically? That can be an adventure in itself. But if you The walk that I did, yes, it's probably the ultimate in adventures and walks you can do around the country. Having said that, there is one that I think is a lot harder, and that's some people embark on a full tour of the coast, walking around the coast of Great Britain.
How far is that? 3,000 or 4,000 miles.
It's going to be, and what the National Trails and Rights of Way associations are doing, they're trying to make all of it accessible. Obviously, there's some farms and some places and some military places where they do testing that you have to walk off the coast a little bit and walk back onto it. But that is the ultimate challenge. But the one I did, for me, was hard work. It was really, really hard work.
Whereabouts does your love of walking originate? Because people will gather that you are deeply into it. You actually run a website that's all about walking.
Yeah, I've got a website called Walking Englishman, and what that is, every walk I do, I write about the story. I write the story of the walk in my eyes, how I enjoyed it, the sights I see, the experiences I have. I have lots of walking friends in Harrogate who I walk with. There's Jez and Dave and CJ and other guys. There's a team of us that we go out and we really enjoy the days. We really do enjoy the days. So the love of walking, where does it come from? I was born in Northallerton, so I'm a North Yorkshire man. I used to explore the fields and villages around Brompton and where I was born in Northallerton. Excuse me. My grandfather used to take me for a walk with his dog when he was 5 or 6 years old across the fields, and I just loved exploring. In those days, the fields had little ponds in them and little copses that have now been levelled because of intensive farming, but still, it's a great place to learn.
Do we do enough to promote York and North Yorkshire and the whole of Yorkshire as a walking destination?
I don't think we do. I think there are places such as the Yorkshire Dales, and some villages thrive on it. Look at Kettlewell, for example. It's a walking mecca, and you look at go further away, go into the Lake District now, and Keswick has become just focused on walking, and the walking fraternity shops springing up everywhere. I don't think we do. We've got great trails. We maintain those trails as well. I mean, some trails I walked on. One of the trails I walked on was the Staffordshire Way. I'm sorry, Staffordshire, you should be disappointed with that trail because it was badly maintained. There was barbed wire over fences. Some of the farmers had put electric wiring over fences as well. So I've got evidence of it, and I've wrote to Staffordshire Council and so have some friends of mine. But the rest of them were very well maintained. If we can do the same in Yorkshire, encourage it and sign it better, people will go out. Walking's great for the soul. It's great for your health. It's great for the environment as well because you're not clogging up. I heard earlier there was talk about trains, 8%, is it, increase in train fares?
Yeah.
Walk into town and everything else. I walk into Harrogate all the time. I live about a mile outside of Harrogate. I don't ever... I use the public transport. I either use the bus going home, but I'll usually walk down and walk back because it's healthier. One of the added benefits. I'm not going to write a book on dieting, but I lost 2.5 stone on this walk.
Well, I was going to say, how many calories do you consume doing what you've done?
Well,
lots every day.
Put it this way: I've lost 2.5 stone. I would never have lost that any other way. No way whatsoever. So yes, you must consume lots of calories.
You've also got yourself an extremely healthy tan. I mean, you look like you've just come back from the Mediterranean, but that's genuinely 80 days.
That's genuinely
under the UK sunshine.
That's 80 days of UK rain, UK storms, UK winds.
So it's not a suntan; it's a weathering.
It's a weathering. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's a weathering. But no, I mean some beautiful sunshine, and you've always got the sun's rays coming through in through the cloud. It's a fantastic place.
What was the best bit of this walk? Was there one moment where you your breath was taken away and you thought, I didn't think I was going to see that. That's special.
Oh, there was one. I've never seen it before. Strolling Steve, my friend from down Bristol way, he used to spend his childhood there. He says you will be blown away by this, and it was Cheddar Gorge. I've never been through Cheddar Gorge. It was spectacular. So that was one, but there was many. I mean, the experiences. So Cheddar Gorge was fantastic. I always love walking through the Yorkshire Dales. The entry into the Lake District from the north over back of Skiddaw was fantastic. The North West Islands, the remoteness, some days I walked by myself, I never saw another human being, was fantastic. The South West was fantastic. I can't really single anything out. It was all fantastic. But also what was fantastic was, sorry about that, was the meetings with people.
Well, tell me about the meeting. We're going to take a break. We've got to just break for our travel news. We'll be back with you in a second or two's time. I want to hear the remainder of your story in a moment. We'll be back with Mike in just a second or two's time.
BBC Radio York Travel.
Time we find out what's happening on North Yorkshire's roads and cross to the travel centre. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. In York, Acorn Way is still closed in both directions for resurfacing work. That's between Moorcroft Road and Rycroft Avenue until 5 p.m. each day this week. Diversions are in place. At Beedale, South End eastbound, we've got temporary lights there also between Harbour Rise and Brookside Avenue. And the A659 Arthington Lane is closed in both directions. That's if you're travelling further afield towards West Yorkshire, towards Poole. There's been a fuel spillage and a broken down tanker between Warren Lane and Black Hill Road, so it's affecting traffic between Harwood and Poole. Looking elsewhere, seems to be looking good on public transport at the moment. The travel line number 0800 854 833.
Sarah, thank you very much indeed. Back with the travel team in half an hour's time. Coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Steve Bailey is along with all the day's news, local, national and international, and of course some great music to get you home in style here on BBC Radio York.
There's more at bbc.co.uk/York.
BBC Radio York.
Mike Brockhurst from Harrogate is my guest this morning. A week ago today, he was completing a walk of 1,100 miles. Do you got this sort of glow inside, a feeling of great achievement?
Absolutely. This will live with me for the rest of my life, simply because I planned it myself. I made the itinerary such that it was demanding. I had to complete the itinerary in 80 days. Yes, it was a fantastic experience, the whole experience from start to finish. And I mentioned just before we went for a break that people were part of it. And one of the great things about walking is the characters you meet. For example, on the Cape Wrath Trail, I didn't meet very many people at all. There was nobody on it, just me and the sheep and a few reindeer and whatever. But when I got to Fort William, I had a little bit of a break in Fort William because I actually had to have a day off because I had impact damage on my heel and I had to take a day's break and catch that up afterwards. But on the second day of resuming walking, I walked from a place called Kinloch Leven to the Pass of Glencoe. And I was just walking. It was a kind of miserable day, and I was walking up a steep mountain to start the walk. Ahead of me, I saw this chap, and he was walking along quite casually, and he didn't have a backpack or anything. All he had was a handkerchief in his hand. And we walked for about half a mile. We kept pace, and eventually I caught him up and we started chatting. And this chap's name was Ron Aubrey. Ron Aubrey was 70 years old and one day. The day before, on his 70th birthday, he climbed up Ben Nevis. And we got chatting away, and I walked with him for the next 15 miles, and it was an absolute pleasure to walk with the man. So enthusiastic about walking, so happy about the environment he was in and everything else, and that was a beautiful experience. The next day, I met a couple on a bridge. They were actually riding bicycles, and the chap's name was Tom Mills, and his wife's name was Gail. Got chatting to them. They're good friends now. I've met 5 or 6 people I've never met before who walked with me for full stages of the walk, and they're all good friends now.
There's a special bond then, isn't there? A special sort of brotherhood or sisterhood of unity of walking together.
That's what happens in walking. You do get those you do get those friendships. They are really close friendships.
There'll be people, Mark, who are listening thinking, how did he do it? Because I've got a job to go to every day. How do you find the time? How do you make 80 days in your life in order to go on a venture like this?
Well, I work in a great industry for a great company. I work in the water industry. I'm Innovation General Manager at a company called Alpha Beta Utility Solutions. I actually resigned, and my boss rang me up and says, what are you resigning for? I don't want you to resign. And we had a chat about it. I said, look, Colin, I need to go and do this walk. It's in my head. It's in my soul. You know I like walking. I also do long-distance walks, but this is a really special one. He says, how long do you need? It was as simple as that. He says, how long do you need? I said, I need a month to prepare, 3 months to do it, a month to get back and recover and write up parts of it and everything else. He says, fine, you come back and we'll talk about it when you come back. So I'm blessed by working for a good company and having a good understanding boss. So that's how I can do it. I know everybody can't, but the people who can't do it, to holidays and breaks, you can go walking long weekends. I do generally do walking long weekends, or walk or on a Saturday or Sunday, single walks. You don't have to do it 80 days on the trot. A lot of people break them up into stages as well, but I was very, very lucky. Very, very lucky, and I have to thank my company for that. 3
cheers for an understanding employer.
Yes.
And they must want you back. I understand you're an expert in mending leaking pipelines. But
my job is Innovation General Manager, and what I do in that role, I'm trying just to create and stimulate interest in innovation in the industry. We always get, the water industry always get high-profile criticism when pipes burst. Like leaking pipes, everything else. The first thing that happened, there's a burst pipe on Bootham Crescent in York or wherever. Block the roads, the company will come out, block the roads, go in and everything else. If we can do that from the inside, you won't see us doing it.
We're going to have to stop. Let's just give one very quick mention to the 2 organisations who benefited from the walk that you've done.
Yes, the 2 organisations are Building Better Futures, which is Balfour Beatty's own sponsored charity, and what they do, they provide support to homeless people, give them opportunities in life. And the other one is Harrogate Skills for Living and Learning Disabilities Centre in Harrogate. That as I've gone along the walk, people have just passed me money and everything else, and I've got a nice cheque to present them from that as well, which is quite substantial.
Congratulations on a great achievement. Thank you very much indeed for coming in and telling your inspiring story this morning.
Thank you, Jonathan. If I just say one thing, everybody, go out walking. It's a great thing to do.
And go and have a look at Mike's website. It's www.walkingenglishman.com, and if you haven't been inspired by his words, you'll be inspired by his website. The time is 10:32 and Sarah's back with the latest news headlines.
A police surgeon from Scarborough is warning teenagers that binge drinking could make them more vulnerable to rape. Doctors, the police and prison officers are working together to shock young people into avoiding alcohol. Those convicted of rioting and looting will have to wear bright orange uniforms and clean the streets that they damaged. The Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg has also announced this morning that there'll be a communities and victims panel to look into what happened last week. And travelling around Yorkshire by train is going to get more expensive next year. A rise in inflation figures has pushed up the price of season tickets from January. BBC News for North Yorkshire, there's more at 11.
Sarah, thank you. And the weather forecast for the rest of today. Good for walking? Well, I'm not sure. A cloudy morning with outbreaks of rain and drizzle possible in places. It will gradually brighten, but this will trigger a few sharp showers with the risk of hail and thunder. Fine with sunny spells by this evening, moderate southwest winds and a top temperature of 20 Celsius, 60 Fahrenheit. Tonight staying dry and fine with clear spells. The breeze will fall light and it will be a fairly cool night tonight with a minimum temperature of 9 Celsius, that's 49 Fahrenheit. Tomorrow, Wednesday, a mostly dry day after a sunny start. Cloud will gradually build and some patchy rain, of course, is possible during the course of tomorrow evening. My thanks again to Mike Brockhurst. Fascinating story. Do go and have a look at the website. You'll